So I've been working in schools of public policy for the last 20 years. I've always tried to have a policy impact or influence in actually thinking about informing the policy debate. So the first thing you need to do is have really top-notch academic research that is peer-reviewed. And then once it passes muster through the academic community, then what you do, or what I have done, is that you write briefing papers and you try to get it onto the desk of some policymakers. You present it widely. You can write opinion editorials in newspapers informing the public debate. And you would hope that policymakers will pick up on it and say, wow, that's an interesting idea, that I'm facing this particular policy challenge. Maybe this set of scholars can help me to get some traction on it. And then doing interviews, on NPR and on the BBC, I've done a number of interviews. So there's different avenues that you can reach the policy community. And usually there's a policymaker who is facing a challenge. Right? So they've been told that we really need to figure out what's going on in Syria. How do we end this war? How should we end this war? What are the ways in which the academic community thinks about civil war endings? Is there any research out there? And there are people in the US government, this is their job, to understand what are best practices and drawing on the academic community. They might convene a workshop and invite leading scholars in to say, we need help. You might give Senate testimony, right? So you go and you actually present some solutions, some guidance, some ways of thinking about the problem. Typically, there is somebody in the policy community that has a policy challenge and they're looking for help. Names get percolated and research centers, people say, oh yes, at Boston University, there's a group working on this, trying to understand religion. They have this modeling religion project. We should call over there and see if somebody can help us to understand what's happening with ISIS. I'm on two projects. One is we're looking at the escalation of religious violence between groups. So how is it that you have groups that don't necessarily want to beat up on one another? They don't want to be conflictual and much less violent. Yet you have a dynamic where there's a spinning out of fear and anxiety. And the question is how does that happen and how does it become mutually escalating to the point where you have large-scale violence and killing, rioting, rebellion? One of the cases we're looking at is the Gujarat riots in India between Hindus and Muslims, and how that sort of spun out of control. And when I say out of control, it was unanticipated, and it took a long time. It took several weeks for that to scale down. And then the other project is trying to look at apocalyptic or sort of theological justifications for the use of weapons of mass destruction. We're seeking insight on whether it's the case really fundamentalist groups are seeking weapons of mass destruction. Will they use them against other societies, against people that they think are infidels or apostates or just enemies? And the theological basis of that is incredibly important, but so are the political basis. So we're looking at them as organizations, and how is it that these weapons might help them to advance their objectives and or their religious perspectives, their beliefs about what they think they're doing for God or in the eyes of God. And so I've been working with the computer modelers, trying to model, again, the parameters in the escalatory model, saying, okay, it takes two groups or three groups. What happens? Are politicians involved? What are the actual demographic makeup of the groups? Does it matter if one's a majority, one's a minority? Does it matter if they're the same size? And trying to understand sort of the basic parameters of the struggle that's happening between these groups. And we brainstorm. And we just think very logically about, okay, what's in their interest? Why would they want to do this? And we, have values for all the different variables, thinking about income, thinking about history, and putting, you can download data on GDP per capita, on population size. So that the values of those variables will set up the parameters, and then we'll just run lots of simulations to see how the interactions happen, how the networks get built, and then sort of the outcome, the equilibrium, the outcome that we're interested in, which is, will they use these weapons given their ideas? So if they have these ideas that they're in end times or not in end times, is this part of the path to get them to the revelations, to the end state that they want to be in? So policymakers, what can they do and how should they be thinking about religion? I think at its most basic level, they should accept that religion is part of the milieu in which we're operating, that you don't want to discount it. People are turning to their faith traditions much more so, which means that policymakers are going to have to be much more attuned to it. All right, so for the next 100 years, I think don't expect religion to diminish. Religion's going to inform a lot of policy and both public life and private life for the years to come.